All right. So we are live.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
So no profanity.
Jen,
don't cuss at me.
Joe.
Yeah.
I always do.
I did post on the thing that there's going to be no interaction between the people watching.
Yeah.
That way it saves you some time, Kris, because I know you got to go on the Miranda show right after this.
Yeah. And that's fine. If people want to say something or ask something, that's cool. Okay. I'm free for whatever, as long as we're done at 8:45. So Miranda can do her thing. We're good.
That's what I was saying, 8:45. So
nice.
All right. You ready, Jen?
I am so ready.
All right. I got to find Shattered Faces again.
Yep. Right there.
And I'll introduce.
In the days of this glorious times, you're confused in your life and your life.
Welcome to 222 Paranormal Podcast. With your host, Jen and Joe.
Hello.
It feels so weird. I'm on the wrong side.
I know. We're on opposite sides. We have to mix it up every once in a while, right? Try something new.
I know our listeners don't understand, but usually Jen's on that side of the table.
Yeah.
I'm on this side, but now that we're doing the recording with Dr. Sumner, I had to put the camera out front and everything. And
now you're going to see all the ghosts walking through your house.
Yeah. But we have a great show tonight. We have Dr. Kris Sumner with us from Soul Sisters Paranormal.
Welcome.
And
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. We're so excited.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So what's going on?
Anything new? What's exciting?
We're actually
a very busy summer.
Yeah, we are going to have a busy summer. Jenny and I just came back from Milwaukee. We were there investigating the Shaker's Cigar Bar, which was very interesting. We were invited by the owner of that establishment to come up and investigate and stay the night there. So that was a lot of fun. So we're going through all of that evidence review right now, see if we found anything compelling. And got a couple of different projects that we're working on. Obviously, the investigation videos, we'll be putting those out, but also our landmark legends and lore. We've got 2 that we're working on right now, so that's a lot of fun. And we've got some events coming up this summer. Got some more investigations coming up. So it's actually, we're in a really busy time right now.
We're loving it. It's finally time to get back out there, be able to go out, investigate. This investigation that you went up to do, what are the claims that go on at this location?
Well, apparently it's one of the most haunted bars. It's one of the top 5 haunted bars in the U.S. And it was actually built in 1859, and it was built on a cemetery. They just decided that this is the spot we want. We're going to put this bar here. And so they asked all of the family members, if you need to move the bodies of your loved ones, go ahead and move the bodies. But there were several that couldn't afford it, so they were actually, there are actually bodies buried underneath this this bar. So it's a 3-story. It has a cellar, and then it's got the main floor, which is the bar, which used to also serve as a speakeasy during Prohibition. And then it's got 2 floors above it, which served as a brothel as well. And Al Capone and his brother actually owned it during Prohibition, and they had a legitimate business in the storefront, which was a soda business, and then the back was actually the speakeasy. So they did a lot of deals and stuff down there. So a lot of the reports are that some of the spirits of the bodies that were in the cemetery are reported to haunt this building. Some of the madams from the brothel are reported to haunt this building, especially one by the name of Molly. There were reports that she was actually killed, I believe in the 1920s. She was killed by one of the bouncers there, and her body was never discovered. Well, in I think 2007 or 8, and I may be butchering these years a little bit. In 2007 or 8, the current owner was renovating, and they actually found bones in the wall. And when they had those forensically tested, they were about 70 years old. So they believe that they actually found the body of Molly in the walls there. So she said to haunt the establishment. So it was just a lot of fun. Very welcoming. The owners and the staff were very welcoming to us. Pretty much let us have free reign of the building for the night. So that was interesting. And so I think, we had some compelling personal experiences there. But like I said, we're going through all of of the audio and video recordings now to see if we captured anything on any of that.
What was the vibe of the place? Was it menacing, or was it comforting, or was it just a normal run of the mill?
Well, it wasn't really comforting. The basement or the cellar area was a little bit, I'm not going to say evil or really negative, but it was a little bit darker. You'd go down there and you kind of sense something is a little bit off with it. But it was just an interesting building. You know, all the hardwood is original, all of the bar area and everything is original. So it was actually a fascinating bar to go into just for the historical aspect alone. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even if we don't find anything paranormal or what we consider compelling, then, you know, just the historical video is going to be so much fun to do. And I'm really excited about that. But there was one instance where, again, they allowed us to have complete run of the building. Typically, they only allow investigators to stay up in the brothel area, but the owner permitted us to be on the speakeasy and bar floor as well as in the cellar. And so we were actually coming down, and the last bartender there, his name was Zach, and he told us, he's like, you know, I'll be here till about 3:30, and then I'm going to go. So we waited until about 3:45, and we went down from the brothel area. We went down into the bar area, and as I'm turning the corner, I see somebody. I legitimately see somebody standing there. So I turned to Jenny and I said, I guess Zach is still here. And when I turned back, I didn't see him. So I thought he went around behind the bar. And I said, Zach, are you still here? And we didn't get an answer. So that was an interesting personal experience. I've got to go back through the body camera footage to make sure Jenny caught that. But like I said, it was a great investigation. We did some filming for Landmark Legends and Lore up there as well. Some different areas. We went to Bray Road and stuff like that. Some different haunted locations, or reportedly haunted locations, or those that have an interesting legend. So we really went around Wisconsin for two or 3 days, just kind of filming, and went over to Illinois and did some filming, as well as Indiana. So those are all going to be in future Landmark Legends and Lore episodes as well.
Cool.
There's so much talk about Wisconsin just being so uniquely different for paranormal, cryptids, all types of strange.
Yeah, a lot of cryptid activity.
It's almost like hush hush. Like people don't want to talk about it, but like we want to know more.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we've heard as well. You know, listening to some of the guests that have been on the Ghost Biker Garage with Miranda Young, you know, some of her guests are really into the cryptids, and some of them do focus on Wisconsin. And, you know, to go through some of those areas, you know, like the Kettle Moraine and all of that, you know, you really don't think of Wisconsin as being that wild, I guess I'll say. Yeah. But when you go through some of those locations, it's like, okay, you know, I can kind of look out the window and see how a Bigfoot would be here, or, you know, a Brave Road monster. I can kind of see that. So just being there and experiencing it was just a blast. And to get to do it with Jenny was just awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And Jenny's your sister, obviously, right?
Yeah, my twin sister, yes.
Sisters, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's your twin? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know I was a twin?
No, I didn't know you guys were twins.
Oh, Joe, where have you been? Yes, Jenny.
I know.
Yeah, Jenny and we're twins. Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing. So, as twin investigators, do you have any like shared feelings, or you know, they always say like twins have this special bond, and maybe you can read each other's thoughts or finish each other's sentences. Do you guys feel the same type of spirit activity at the same time? Maybe.
We do have a very good bond, probably a little bit more so than most siblings. You know, I talk to Jenny 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, she's my best friend. So, you know, to have that connection, just that sibling connection is very strong. As far as using it in the paranormal, I think it does help us a little bit. I'm not going to say we're empathic or anything, but, you know, we can look at each other and say, and just kind of know what the other one's thinking, you know, what direction we want to go as far as techniques, or, you know, try an EVP session or a different, like I said, technique in the moment, or just kind of get on the same wavelength like that. But we really are in sync, really, because like I said, the bond between twins is just something that's very special and unique. And I think we use that to some extent in our paranormal investigations.
I think that's interesting because when you investigate with friends, it's one thing, but when you're with family, it's a different level of trust. Like, you know that they're not going to let you, wander off or step into the well, fall in a well or something. He's like, this is the most annoying sister I have. I've got 2 other ones, but they don't investigate.
No, and you're absolutely right. But on the downfall, on the other side of that is you're never going to kick them off your team either.
That's true. Yeah.
So, but no, my sisters, because we actually started this with our younger sister Michelle. So, for the first 2 years, all 3 of us would go on these investigations, first 3 years, and so yeah, just to have these experiences, like I said, to share those with Jenny and with Michelle, it's something that is extremely unique, I think, in the paranormal community, just because we do have that closeness.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it would just save time too, because you know what each other is thinking. You don't have to argue about where you're going to set up the equipment.
That's what's nice about work.
Or who's going to use, get your own K2, Joe.
Yeah. And that's what's nice about working with the same people all the time.
Yeah.
You kind of really do get the feel for what the other person's going to be doing. And it's like the bond where you don't have to say a word. You just know what everybody's going to do. And
that's right.
It's pretty cool.
You've been all over. I mean, I look at your page. You guys are everywhere. Ghost hunting, investigating. I love it. I'm so jealous. One of the places that I saw that you guys went was the old Southern funeral home, and I have so many questions about that because that's my dream is to get into a funeral home. I don't know. It's weird, but whatever.
You need to get down to Kosciuszko because it is a great location. The funeral home, and they also have the Attila County Jail, which is about a quarter mile away. So that weekend, we actually investigated both locations. We investigated the jail on a Friday night and the funeral home on a Saturday night.
Did you have the energy for that? I know it's exciting, but it's you could go to a location and get really drained. The spirits would be taking all your energy. But,
no. In fact, both of those locations were extremely active. The Attila County Jail, we got some great EVPs from that. Had a really cool spirit box session as well, and just some different things there. And then the funeral home, it is a unique location to investigate. It's different than an asylum or a jail or a penitentiary. It really is. It has a different vibe, but I think the evidence that we got there was extremely compelling.
Just for our listeners, can you just describe kind of the physical layout of this funeral home? Is it a large funeral home? Is it in the woods? Where's it located? What's it look like?
Sure. So it's in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, which I'd say a smaller town, and it is on the outskirts of that town. And I think it ceased operations in the early 2000s. It has a large parking lot. It's on this side road, but it was still accessible to the town. So it's something that everybody in the town knew that was there, obviously. When you walk in, it's got a large lobby area, and then off to the right, it's got an extremely large chapel area, and that's where they would have the larger viewings when they had funerals there. And then off of that, you've got 2 smaller viewing areas, and then there's a little, an office room, and beyond that is like a larger, kind of like a little kitchen area, I would say, where they would have prepare food or whatever. And then upstairs is the embalming room. It's rather large. It looks kind of like a hospital room, for lack of a better term, because the way, it's, you walk in, and when they closed this, they actually just shut the doors and left. So when you go into the embalming room now, the formaldehyde is still there. All the embalming fluids, the embalming machines are still there. And then those personal items that family members didn't claim, right? So there's watches, there's glasses, there's false teeth, there's different things there that the family members didn't claim that were in that room as well. And then off of that room, there's a smaller office, and then there's a larger area where when you were going to pick out caskets for your family members, it was where that they made the arrangements for the funeral. So they would have casket displays and all of that up there. So it's rather large. We deployed most of our equipment that night, most of all of our cameras and voice recorders.
It's interesting they had the embalming upstairs versus in the basement? Generally, you take the body in the basement.
Slide it down.
Yeah, a lot of places in the South don't have basements. That's kind of a northern thing. This did not have a basement, so I guess upstairs was the logical choice. But it's interesting because, again, they just shut the doors and left, so there was no movement on this elevator. In fact, the elevator, and I know I'm not giving much away here, but Ghost Biker Explorations, Miranda Young was the first team to investigate there. And one of the things that she actually caught during that investigation was the sound of the elevator going up and down, and yet it wasn't working. So we actually captured what we thought was the same sound. We had a voice recorder in the embalming room, and the elevator is right outside that room. And there's one point during the night where it sounds like to us the elevator is going up. Wow. And the elevator is not in operation.
That's incredible. Did you get more activity or evidence in the rooms when you were in the room or out of the room?
Both. The most of it that we caught that night that to us was compelling was when we were in the room. A lot of what we captured was also in the spirit box, and I know there's controversy about the spirit box, but for us, it is one of those tools that we use to validate other tools. And sometimes the evidence that we get off of that is extremely compelling. Again, we're sitting in one of the rooms, and we said, "Can you say one of our names?" And through the spirit box came Jenny. Immediately came Jenny. And once we were done with that session, we were actually leaving the room, and you can see us leave on the camera, and we leave the room, and the spirit of the voice recorder that was sitting there said it again. It said Jenny. So we captured on the spirit box, and we also captured a disembodied voice saying her name as we left the room. And so that was extremely cool for us.
I could not get over how clear the EVPs were that you captured in that room. I mean, they were answering dead on. They were answering every single question. A perfect EVP. I was getting blown away.
Yeah, it was like I said, a very active night. I would say spirit box wise, after the Ma Barker house investigation that we did, I would say this was the best example of EVP evidence that EVP through the spirit box evidence that we've been able to capture.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did it have I would say an evil, but did it have a heavier presence because it was a funeral home and there were bodies being embalmed and there were things left there?
I'm not going to say evil. Like, none of the places that we've investigated have I ever felt evil or demonic or anything like that. I will say that upstairs location of this funeral home, it was probably one of the most creepy places that I personally have investigated. Others may go in there and not feel that, but for me, when we walked up there, and it was interesting because that weekend we actually went with Miranda from Ghost Biker. So she was doing, we did the Attila County Jail on Friday. Miranda did the funeral home, and then we switched. She did the jail on Saturday, and we did the funeral home on Friday. So when we went to say hi to her Friday night, when we went up to the embalming room, it was so hot. And in that area, I mean, it was really hot when we were in there. But our night, that Saturday night when we were up there doing our investigation, I was freezing. Wow. And so that was a really stark difference just in a personal experience from one night to the next. And the temperature, the outside temperature didn't change, but yet internally it was just so cold that night. And so that was extremely interesting. Another thing that was, I'm not going to say paranormal, but definitely a coincidence. As I mentioned before, there was a lot of personal items that were left in that embalming room. So glasses, dentures, and there was a Timex watch. And it was laying on the gurney that was in the embalming room. And we had a voice recorder in the embalming room. And I had made mention of the fact that it had been closed for so many years, but yet this Timex watch on the gurney was to the exact date and time of that. Wow. Right. So I kind of focused in on it, and I said, this is interesting because, this is the Timex. It's perfect time. And so during the night at midnight, the alarm on the Timex started going off. And when I was listening to the audio and going through evidence review, I came up out of my chair. I was like,
I can imagine.
because this alarm is going off. And I asked the, Donald Martin, I said, has anybody else reported this Timex going off? And they have not. So again, that was extremely interesting to have this Timex watch going off, and yet nobody else has heard that alarm. So extremely compelling.
Yeah, I think that would scare the crap out of me too. Because, we're in these locations and we're trying to be as quiet as we can. And we're always saying like, well, make a sound or that, and then that thing goes off.
Well, bam. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that is so interesting. Yeah. You just wonder what is attached to those items because,
or how many,
yeah.
Right.
How many different spirits.
Exactly. And that's another thing that you really have to take into consideration with this, because not only have the walls of the funeral home seen such sadness, because really not many people go into a funeral home happy. So the walls themselves are really permeated with that sadness, that emotion. And it's a quick release of emotion, right? So it's one of those where you have the sadness, the loss, the remorse, and so you also have those items that are up there as well in that embalming room. And I to Joe's point, I think it just brings another sense of what is connected to those items as well as what's permeated in those walls.
Yeah, because you think about the embalming equipment. How many bodies has that touched?
Exactly.
And I mean, I guess they would clean them and disinfect in between people, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't know. Ask our cousin Kim about that.
Did you, when they just shut the doors, was there any okay, this is weird, but were there any bodies left in there?
No, there were no bodies left in there. But I mean, there were some, there was different notes, that were taken, the autopsy of this person, and they had some notes on, and they had the names and the notes of the autopsy and all of that. So those were interesting to thumb through. But there were no bodies, but there were pictures on the wall. There were like I said, all the embalming stuff, tables, chairs, different things inside the offices, inside the cabinets, inside the desks and stuff like that. So it is an interesting place to go through. Southern Paranormal is the team that operates both the Attila County Jail and the Old Southern Funeral Home. And they've done a tremendous job, just really kind of not restoring it, but putting things in there that enhance the experience. So for example, in that chapel, all of the pews were removed, but they have since put pews in there. They have brought in caskets, so each of the viewing rooms have a casket in it, which again adds to that ambiance of the area. So they've just done an amazing job. But it's one of those things again where I don't think that those are just really embellishments. I think it's the walls and the flooring and the ceilings that have seen so many things. That's where the spirit activity is coming from.
I always thought it was so weird that we go into some of these places and like the hospitals and stuff where you walk in and like you said, they just shut the doors and left everything there. It's so bizarre to me that, they knew they were moving out, but they didn't take nothing. They just walked out.
Yeah, it really is. And just thumb through some of those things. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, so we're in that funeral part the funeral party. Did you think was the
did
most?
You say parley?
I think I did.
Parley.
I was gonna let it slide, Joe, but apparently siblings don't do
my
that.
voice isn't speaking like Brady or whatever his name.
Whatever.
But
go on with your question.
Do you think there's a special hot spot, not temperature wise, but I mean a paranormal spot in that location that's worse or more active than the rest?
For us, it really was that upstairs room, the casket viewing area, which was outside the embalming room. It was just one of those things where you just kind of felt a little bit different when you walked in. And like I said, to me, that was probably one of the most creepy areas that I've investigated at any location. And so just to kind of be in there and it was just a different personal feeling, if you will. Downstairs in the chapel area, we did have some interesting K2 hits down there as well. So that was very interesting. But for me personally, I would say the upstairs casket viewing area.
All right.
Have you been there more than once or just that one time?
Just that one time.
Can we go back? Can I go with you?
Yes, come on. Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. And like I said, Donald Martin from Southern Paranormal has just done a great job of really maintaining it. And he's more than accommodating and welcoming to any team.
Now, in all the places that you've investigate, have you ever had anything follow you home? Have you had any activity in your house or home?
No.
Or stay?
No, we personally haven't. For us, when we go to these investigations, we say a prayer of protection when we go in. We say a prayer of protection when we come out. We really kind of set the boundaries with regard to spirit interaction, if you will. We say you're not allowed to touch us. You're not allowed to follow us home. If we give you permission to, pull the pant leg, pull our hair, touch our shoulder, that's fine. And, it's one of those things that just for Soul Sisters personally, we really don't go in looking for dark or negative or attachments. We really are there to tell the story of the location and of any spirit entity that may want to contact us or get in communication with us that night. And so it really is in a sense of going in and looking for something like that. It's more of really sitting down. And we say, if you watch any of our videos, one of the things we say is we want to tell your story. We're legitimately here because we want to communicate with you. And I think because of that, we've really kind of built a respect, a rapport, if you will, with the spirits in those locations. So I think they respect the fact that they don't come home with us.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that's one really good thing about your videos that's different than a lot of other videos out there is instead of just going right into the investigation, you tell the story. Like this video about the funeral parlor, you told the whole story about the town, and it was so interesting that it actually, you don't think about how these towns start. And it was just a small little place where somebody stopped and decided to put up, and then the railroad came in and it became a town. And this funeral parlor was one of the most, important parts of the town.
Yeah.
And then, it closed and you guys are allowed in there to hunt for the ghost.
And yeah, thank you for saying that, Joe, because that is really what is the most important to us, what we feel is the most important. We get to have these really cool experiences in these really historic and interesting locations that a lot of people don't get to have. And, we get to have that tactile experience to go and put our hands on the wall of a funeral home or the St. Augustine Lighthouse or Trans-Allegheny. And it's one of those things that we feel that in order to do justice to that investigation and the location, the history has to be told.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that for us, it's the most compelling part because it builds as to why we're here or why we think the spirits are here. Without that history, there would be no paranormal. So for us, the history is actually the driving part. And that's why, I've been doing the Landmark Legends and Lore series. It is to bring those smaller legends, those smaller landmarks and those smaller stories in, really compact historical narrative without so much an investigation, but still give you that paranormal vibe, the creepy vibe, if you will. And so that's why if you don't want to sit and watch an investigation, this spin-off series is really kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And you're doing a great job at it.
Thanks.
So why do you feel that funeral parlors are haunted? You would think that, okay, usually it's where the person passes away or their home that gets haunted, but why do you feel that funeral parlors are haunted?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about there's such a release of emotion in these locations. You've got family members, you've got friends who are coming in to pay their last respects, and that it really does kind of permeate into the walls, right? That sadness, that sense of loss, that sense of mourning. And I think that energy holds, and it has the ability to hold spirits. And it may not even be somebody who passed through those walls. It could be somebody on the peripheral, like a Native American or something that is close to or on the land that the funeral parlor sits. And so I think that's the reason. It's kind of like for a very broad example, Gettysburg or a Civil War battlefield, right? Where that very large, rapid release of intense emotion. And that's why some of those are so haunted. Yes, you have the death there on that field, but it was such an intense death at a very centralized moment in time. And that's why that energy is still there. I think that's the same with a funeral parlor or a funeral home. It's just, there's so much negative, not negative in the sense of evil, but negative in the sense of sad and just that sense of loss and mourning. I think it holds in that energy.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Do you feel that the spirits or the spirits of the person that they're having a funeral for ever attends their own funeral?
I would hope so. I want to come back and watch mine. So I think that if you don't ascend immediately, again, in my religious belief, I do think that there's an ascension that happens, but it's not right. It doesn't have to be immediately after you die. I think that if you're allowed to, or if your spirit is willing to reside here, I do think you have the ability to see that, to see the loss, to see the impact that you had, that your life had. And so in my belief, I do think that you get to see that.
Yeah. I think part of it too is that you want to see who comes to your funeral,
that's right?
Like you want to see who comes say goodbye.
Exactly. And you're going to haunt those that don't.
Who's mourning?
And what they
mourning?
say to you, because a lot of times there's that personal, you go up to the casket and you get to say your final words of goodbye or whatever you want to get off. Sometimes it's almost like a confession too. So maybe those people stick around to see, what is the final word to me as before I ascend into or move on to whatever afterlife.
I've even heard that. Now I don't know about this, but I've heard different psychics that tell me that when there's a funeral, there at the end of the casket is where the white light is. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I've heard, that it's the time where that soul can pass over when they have the funeral.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not. That's just something I heard.
Well,
it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to kind of see what the thought would be to ask that same psychic and what happens if somebody's cremated and there really isn't a funeral, or they're lost at sea or something like that.
That's what I was thinking.
That's an interesting question. But for me, I would hope, in my mind, I would hope that you would have the ability to see that, and that's what I'm shooting for anyway.
Yeah, because it was something I thought about, and it's like, okay, so when the funeral is over and they shut the casket, that spirit says, okay, goodbye, and walks into the light. I don't know.
Everybody has a different opinion about that. I often wonder, because I was there when my dad passed, what moment did his spirit leave his body, right? Like the physical body, like, is there a transition time, or where do they go where do you go right after you pass away? Like if you're in a hospice, you have nothing but death there. So are there a ton of spirits trapped there? Are there guides that come and, wait for you? Is your family waiting for you on the other side? Do they stick around with you until the funeral? You don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we'll never know. And that's why we investigate, right? We got to find these answers.
Yeah, I'll tell you a very personal story. So my granddaddy died in 1986, and he and my Nana had been married for years, and so they were very close, very much in love. And so he died of a aneurysm in 1986. And my grandmother, in 2016, she was 93 years old. I mean, spry. She was driving. She had 2 boyfriends that neither one knew about. And so, Nana had it going on, right? Yeah. So, about in 2016, I had a dream that my granddaddy, he came to me in this dream. It was the most vivid dream I've ever had in my life. And it was in a very specific spot in this house that they had lived in together. And it was in a doorway into his office. And I grew up, going to this house. So I knew exactly where it was in this dream. And he looked at me and he said, I'm waiting for your Nana. You're going to be getting a call soon. And then he walked away. And so I was telling my parents about this, and I said, I had this crazy dream. I've never dreamt about Granddaddy, and this was the first time. And so about 2 weeks later, my Nana was in an accident. She fell and broke her hip, and she ended up getting MRSA and never really recovered from that. So she was in hospice for about five weeks and just going kind of in and out of consciousness. And, during that time, she would tell us that she had seen Granddaddy, that she and Granddaddy danced while in the hospice room and all of that. And so the day she passed, and with permission from my family, about 3 hours after she passed, I looked at Jenny and I said, I know where she's going. She's going to the house where I had this in the dream. She's going to that house and she's going to meet up with Granddaddy. So we went to the house. We had 2 K2 meters. I had a black one and Jenny had a gray one, and we're standing, about 2 feet apart. And the power had been turned off in the house, so there's no power in there. And so I said, Nana, are you here? And the meter started going off. And I said, can you just go to the black one? Just the black one went off. I said, can you just go to the gray one? Just the gray one went off. I said, are you here with Granddaddy? We got a positive confirmation of that. I said, are you okay? We got a positive confirmation of that. And so through this series of K2 session questions, I think we did communicate with Nana and Granddaddy. And then that he was waiting for her, and they moved on together after that. Because a week later, we went back to the house, same 2 K2 meters, asking the exact same questions to validate, and we got nothing. There was no blip on either of those K2 meters. We felt nothing. There was nothing there. So that's my belief as to what happened in that instance. So, to kind of go back to your story, I don't think they're waiting around in the hospice room per se. I do think that there's loved ones, guides perhaps, that if you're ready to ascend and you have no unfinished business and there's nothing holding you here, then you're going to move on at that point.
Yeah, what an honor for you to be able to do that.
I know.
It was a really cool experience.
While you're telling me this or telling us the story, I was thinking leave it to a paranormal investigator to go, I'm leaving. I'm going back to the house because I know where.
But most people in their grief wouldn't think that,
Yeah. Well, again, it was one of those things where this dream was so profound. I mean, I can tell you how he had drawstring pants on. I can tell you how the bow looked. I can tell you the pictures on the wall behind everything. I mean, it was the most vivid dream I've ever had in my life. And, it was one of those things that, because I'm actually named after my Nana. We were so close. And it really was a sense of peace for me. It allowed me to say, okay, she's with Granddaddy, and they've moved on.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I had a dream after my dad died, but it was a while after, but I could feel him like touching my shoulders. Like, you could physically feel it. I'm like, he was walking in the door and he was like, I knew he was in heaven, but he came back and I was like, you're here. And he just grabbed my shoulders and he's like, where's your mother? He was like, looking for mom. I'm like, she's over there. But no, that's really profound that, our loved ones come to us in dreams, either to say goodbye and it's almost, it's for me like a physical feeling. I could feel him touching my shoulders, like, hey, that's incredible that you had such a vivid dream.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only dream I ever had of Dad was I remember coming in my dream. I'm walking in Mom and Dad's living room, and Dad's just sitting in the chair. It was like no big deal. He's just there. Just like normal.
Yeah.
I didn't look at him and go, you're dead or anything like that. Yeah. Like I did with Jackie. The first time I had a dream about Jackie, I'm looking at him like, last time I saw you, you were dead.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's
nice dream. But no, that's really interesting. Tell us a little bit about some of the other active locations that you've been to, because you've been to some very famous places.
The list that goes on.
I know, I'm so jealous.
Well, we have been very fortunate. We just kind of really felt that if we were going to do this, we wanted to really build that portfolio and go to some of these places. And we've been fortunate enough to do that. I know, Joe, you want to have Miranda and I on to talk about the Lizzie Borden house. That was extremely interesting to us. The Villisca Axe Murder House, again, extremely interesting.
That's the place I want to go.
It's a very cool place, and that's one of the places where you kind of walk in, kind of like a funeral home. You know, you walk in and you just kind of feel the walls that they have that energy in them, and it's one of those things that just kind of permeates the space. You know, one of the most interesting investigations that we've actually been able to be a part of was the Ma Barker house in Central Florida. We've been the first and to date the only team to investigate that location. Wow. And this location, it was interesting because it was like a perfect case study for paranormal investigators, right? Because we had complete control of the environment. It has no power. It has no water. It sits on about 40 acres of vastness in Central Florida. So there's no air pollution, no light pollution or noise pollution or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, you need a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get back into it. There's a gate that's around it. So we knew that was locked. And so we captured some things that we couldn't explain. You know, we heard footsteps. We heard something like a chair being pulled across. We were capturing, because we did actually a 2-part investigation there. And for those that don't know, this was the site of the 1935 shootout between Ma Barker and her son Freddie and the members of the FBI who were coming to capture them, because Ma and Fred Barker were members of the Barker Carpus gang, one of the most prolific gangs of the 1920s. So they had the shootout and Ma and Fred were killed in the house. So when we did this 2-part investigation, the first night we set up stationary equipment that we just left to run during the night, and we locked the door and we left. So again, we knew that nobody could approach the house. It was completely silent. We actually pre-recorded questions and we pushed play on those and then locked the door and let those run. And then the voice recording.
Idea.
It is a really cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool idea because we wanted to see kind of how it would play out to have questions being asked to Ma and Fred, but yet nobody in the house. So that was a very interesting idea, and I'm glad we did that. But one of the cameras that we had up was in the kill room where they found Ma and Fred's body, and we did this investigation on the anniversary of the shootout. So the shootout happened on January 16th, 1935, and we left our equipment in there January 15th, but it ran until the morning of January 16th to encompass those hours of the shootout. And at about 5:30 in the morning, which is when the shootout was said to have started, our voice recorder in that room captured 2 EVPs. The first one said, Freddie. The second one said, yeah, Ma. And the first one said, get ready, which I think was, I think that was a residual. Incredible. I think it was a residual haunting of what they actually said before the shootout occurred. Yeah. And so then we went back 2 weeks later, and it was just Jenny and I in the house at that point. And we were actually using the spirit box, and we're up in that room, and you know the spirit box is going through these frequencies. And I said, what happened in this room? And through the spirit box, it said, they murdered us, we the ones dead. Just like that, this full phrase, and you can actually hear the frequency change behind the phrase. So it's saying they murdered us, we the ones dead, and yet you still hear the frequencies going behind it. So that was extremely compelling, and one of the reasons why I do have a belief in the spirit box. You know, like I said before, it is a controversial tool, but for us, I can't explain this full phrase coming through at that time. Yeah. And the Ma Barker house was a great one. The old Gilchrist County Jail in Trenton, Florida. I actually investigated there with Miranda from Ghost Biker Explorations, and you know, similar to the Ma Barker house, this was a location that I would say was one of the purest investigations because everything that we had running that night was validating everything else. Wow. We were capturing stick figures on the SLS. We were capturing words through the spirit box. We captured voices on the voice recorder. We were hearing voices in the moment. We were seeing shadow figures. Our cameras caught shadow figures. And it was our obelisk was going off. The REM pod was going off, even though there's no power in the establishment. So it was just a great investigation for us. So I'd say that was probably one of the most active investigations that we've ever been a part of.
How big was that jail?
It's a very small jail. It It has, it's a small footprint. It has 4 cells on the bottom, and then there's a small upstairs. It has 4 cells on the upstairs, and then it has a small jailer's cottage that's connected via a doorway.
Okay.
And but for as small as it is in size, paranormally speaking, it packed a really big punch.
Wow.
Just because, like I said, everything that night was just validating everything else, and it was just we actually thought it was going to be a sleeper investigation. Miranda was actually down there filming, and that was our 5th investigation in 6 days. And so we had actually booked it because it was on her way back up to Tennessee, and right outside of Gainesville, Florida. And I said, let's just book this little place. It's supposed to be pretty good. And she said, all right, let's just do it. And we just thought, if we catch anything, great. But we walked in there, and it was like boom, 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 boom. One of the interesting things was we both carry handguns. And so in this location, you definitely needed it because it's in the not so great part of the county. And so the first hour we were in there, and it was really kind of quiet. And Miranda said, I wonder if they think we're law enforcement because we have our guns on. And so she said, why don't we just try taking our guns off and see what happens? So I take my gun off and I put it on a cot in the cell. And as Miranda's taking hers off, she's putting it down. And she said, I'm putting it down nice and easy. And right behind us, a guy's voice said, good. And there's nobody else in there. And after that, I'm telling you, the night was on. It was, like I said, it was probably one of the coolest investigations I've been a part of.
To audibly hear somebody.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now, did you get?
Good stuff.
Sorry, I don't remember, but did you get that on video?
Yes, it's on video.
Okay, and it's available on your website.
Yeah, it's on Soul Sisters under the old Gilchrist County Jail.
Okay, yeah, wasn't sure if you had that on there or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's so amazing to go into a place. Like I just experienced that a couple weeks ago. We went into a place and we were like, I know this place is not haunted. It's all a hype and all that. And it was one of the most active places,
when you least expect it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I always say the second you get out of your car, hit that record button.
Exactly. Kind of along those same veins, when we were in the Lizzie Borden house, we were setting up all of our equipment. We hadn't really officially started the investigation yet. So we were leaving things around. So Jenny and Michelle had the task of setting stuff down up in the parlor. Miranda and I were upstairs doing our setup up there. And so Jenny and Michelle were just talking, and you can see it on camera. The voice recorder was sitting on one side of the parlor. Jenny and Michelle had just put it down, and they were just talking. And you hear a guy's voice right behind Jenny saying, standing right here next to you. And again, no men there. And then about 15 minutes later, Cara came into the room, and Jenny and Cara were just sitting there talking between each other. And they were discussing the differences between the Villisca Axe Murder House and the Lizzie Borden house. So they were just kind of talking, and Cara just happens to say, either way, that would be a horrible way to die. And we captured a man's voice saying it was. And again, so you always have to keep that voice recorder going. So we've had some very interesting experiences.
That's incredible.
Yep. You always got to record.
Always.
There's so many times where we were just down in Butler, Tennessee, and we went to a little tiny graveyard.
Pennsylvania,
sorry. We were down south. And we went to this little graveyard, not thinking anything, and we got a lot of activity there. And it was the same thing. It's like, why weren't we recording?
I think we were just so excited to be out ghost hunting, right?
Yeah. So it is a lot of fun. We've, like I said, we've been doing this since 2013. And it's one of those things where, I never dreamed it would become as big as it has for us. We just kind of put these videos out for our family and to kind of show the history of these locations that we've gone to. But, we've been very fortunate enough to make such great friends, such as Miranda and yourselves, have some great fans such as, Janet Alms and Robin Cantor. I know you both are listening, so thank you. So it just one of those things where we never really expected it to be this, but I can't imagine it being anything else. I'm really excited about what we do.
Well, we look forward to at some point this summer or this fall meeting up with you and your team, and maybe we can go somewhere spooky and investigate.
Absolutely. Well, if y'all are down for Mississippi, we can definitely go to Mississippi and visit the funeral home.
That'd be fun.
Oh, I'm in.
All right, let's do it.
All right, great.
All right, we're on our way.
Yeah. So if anybody wanted to check out your videos or your website, could you give them the email address or the link to the website?
Sure. It's www.soulsistersparanormal.com. We're also very active on Facebook under Soul Sisters Paranormal, and our YouTube channel is under Soul Sisters Paranormal as well.
Amazing. And just one last question before we let you go. Do you do any residential people if they're having any issues or trouble in their home with a spirit?
We do. So residentials and businesses as well.
Okay.
Again, it does come down to logistics. We've had people from the Bahamas and the Philippines ask us to come, and that's really kind of outside our scope.
Right?
But if it's in the realm of possibility, logistically wise, if that's even a phrase, we'll absolutely help with residential and business investigations.
Well, that's wonderful. Kris, we really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the podcast, and wishing all the best and great luck in your next investigations. And we'll definitely got to meet up sometime this summer and hang out and do some really great investigating.
And
let's make that happen.
Yeah, I think we're going to see you in July, maybe, if you come up.
Yes.
And,
yes.
I'll be doing management duty at that point. So I'll be working with Ghost Biker Explorations, who everybody stick around and watch the Ghost Biker Garage after this.
Yeah, that's why we got to kick you off here, because you've got to
been kicked out of better places than this.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you're going to the other hotel room to do the other video. But
no, actually, Miranda's got a great guest tonight. His name is David Flowers from the Magnolia Hotel, and so I may be making a cameo appearance to talk about some other things. But she actually does have a great guest lined up, so I'm just here as moral support right now.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you. It's
Appreciate
so
you.
good to see you, and it's great to talk to you.
Absolutely. And thank you both for your support. It's just amazing to have friends like you guys.
Great.
Thanks. All right. And we'd like to thank everyone for listening this week. And like we always say, please, please, please get up there on our website. We have t-shirts for sale. We have all kinds of merchandise. Support the show any way you can, even if it's just telling a friend. But anyhow, let's leave with some Dead End 5. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
In the days of this glorious times, you're confused in your life and your life. And if you
This
never
is
believe
Shattered Faces.
Ooh, scary music.
And you look deep into this boy's eyes, but you know the truth. But you never understood, either kid, never heard a word. What I said, shadow faces, little gray, shadow faces, number 6. Turn your lights out, fuck your life.
All right. Record is off. Hey, thank you, Kris. It was awesome.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much. I really do appreciate it.
All right.
I had so many questions I want to ask, so we got to have you
Next
back
time.
on.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And we still have to do the Lizzie Borden thing as well.
Yeah, I want to definitely do that.
Great.
The whole group. All right. I'll let you go.
All right. Goodbye.
Have a
All
great
right.
night.
Thank you guys. Good night.
Give Miranda our love, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
I'll do it. Bye.
Bye.